There's a little bit of something for everyone in the Assassin's Creed series. There's no franchise at the top of my head that has effectively blended both stealth and action at the same time. Shout out to Prince of Persia as well. While also occasionally throwing in a completely random new twist like the new naval battles and the multiplayer so well for so long. And all of this is in the context of a story that takes place across thousands of years and multiple very different time periods. But which Assassin's Creed games ranks among the best of the best? While no title in the main series is considered to be especially bad, I mean, that depends on what type of fan you are in this universe. And if you're like a mega diehard fan of Assassin's Creed in general, well, tough shit for you, buddy, because I'm pretty sure this list is going to ruffle some feathers, so don't say I didn't warn you. So let's start from the bottom and make our way to the tippy top of the top 1 best Assassin's Creed of all time, in my opinion. In my number 13, I have Assassin's Creed Rogue. My game card tells me I played through Assassin's Creed Rogue, but honestly, I had a hard time remembering much of the experience until it came to like writing this entire shit. AC Rogue is fine. I mean, even bringing it up on the rear end on this list, it's not really a bad game. But the biggest problem with it is that it feels more like a DLC for the far superior Black Flag than a separate game. Now, don't get me wrong, playing as a Templar is cool, and there's some really beautiful sceneries while sailing through the Arctics, especially if you play the remastered edition in 4K. But aside from the story, the game doesn't really do anything to stand out, and it's all over in about like 10 hours. I literally finished this game in like 10 hours. Probably one of the shortest campaigns in the series for sure. But one of my favorite things about this game is their goddamn songs, especially the Sea Shanty edition, the Don't Forget Your Old Shipmate. Please, people, give it a listen. It's a banger. In my number 12, I have Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Valhalla has plenty of fans. I don't know why I started there, but it has a lot of fans. But my first question to them would have to be, have you guys actually played the main quest to the end? Now look, this isn't me trying to be like a fucking smartass, because I'm actually legitly asking you guys a question. Have you actually played the main quest to the end? Because Valhalla is a pretty huge game with remarkably little variety between missions. Just go to a new area of New England, sneak around a bit, and engage in the exact same raid in similar looking towns. And it just goes on like this for about 80 hours with a story that never really looks like it's going anywhere. That's not to say that Valhalla is bad though. The moment-to-moment combat remains enjoyable throughout the lengthy adventure with plenty of customizations. And the Viking aesthetics is pretty awesome. Even if the mythos gets somewhat incomprehensible the more it delves into Norse mythology, if there's such a thing as a game being too big, Valhalla is definitely it. It's really hard to argue that this is the weakest of the 3 AC games since the series took a turn into the action RPG genre. In number 11, I have Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Now, I actually like Syndicate, but it just never really grabbed me the same way other AC games did. I thought Evie was fine, but Jacob was pretty annoying. London was cool, the mobile train base was pretty cool, and the special animation assassinations were pretty slick. But the gang fights felt shoehorned in, and the grappling gun just didn't work for me. I mean, it's an AC game. I want to see some parkour. I liked the Animus glitch that had you as an assassin in World War II London, but it just felt tacked on and unrelated to the rest of the game. The DLC with Jack the Ripper was pretty gnarly, but that was like an extra purchase. So overall, this game was okay. In my number 10, I have Assassin's Creed. Do y'all remember how awesome Assassin's Creed looked when it was first announced? Those huge crowds, the massive open world, the promise of assassinating targets in multiple ways. And then it came out and it just couldn't quite live up to the hype. Just like with AC Rogue, the original Assassin's Creed is not that bad. It hasn't even aged that poorly for a game that came out in 2007, mind you. It's just pretty obvious that the team wasn't quite sure what the direction of the series would take, so now it kind of feels more like a tech demo for the later games. Assassin's Creed actually has the exact opposite problem of more recent titles in the series. There's just not much to do in this game. Beyond the main missions, you can collect flags here and there, and that's about it. Still, you'll catch a lot of glimpses at the potential greatness here. If Ubisoft ever goes back to remake this game with more content, it could really be something special. The game that literally started an entire fan base and an entire franchise. Looking back, it was hard to describe how new Assassin's Creed felt at the time. Not only was it a historical period game, it was a stealth assassination game and a sci-fi game, and had a good combat system before counters weren't overused as fuck, and a free roaming parkour game. and all of those shit in one. There was literally nothing like it when it came out. Yes, it was repetitive. Yes, the story twist was easy to see coming. Yes, even back then you could ignore the stealth and just, use counters to hack your way through 30 guys. Still though, assassinations were open and exciting. The level of little historical details was amazing. Richard the Lionheart has a French accent. Desmond's side story was actually mysterious and interesting. The boss battles were challenging. Character progressions was rewarding. With 3 cities, a home base, and an open battlefield world in between, the world felt massive. And there's nothing, just nothing like stabbing some fool in the neck and setting off every alarm in the city, turning every assassination into a wild getaway chase. Like, I have no idea why they took this out. Like, Ubisoft, please bring this back. So there's a reason this game spawned a decades of sequels. It was historical and it was just simply amazing and revolutionary. In my number 9, I have Assassin's Creed Revelations. The second Assassin's Creed game was such a huge hit and a massive improvement over the first one that of course Ubisoft wanted to follow it up as quickly as possible with more Ezio adventures. The first direct sequel is still pretty good, and it does pain me to put this here because it's an Ezio game and I love Ezio, but Revelations was only okay. Getting to see old Cantankerous Ezio was rad and Constantinople looked amazing, but this game just didn't have anything new really going for it. Its innovations were ziplines everywhere, making bumps that you'd only use now and then, and a tower defense minigame that was fine. You got to see Ezio seeing Altier's memories, but that wasn't really that interesting in the end. Neither were the Templars trying to bring back the Byzantine Empire, nor young Solomon the Magnificent. I once studied the Ottoman history back in my history class, and I love the scenery of the Golden Horn area in Istanbul, so this game should have been in my jam. And it was my jam, but it was an only okay jam. Oh, and Desmond is in a coma the whole time, which even for a Desmond arc was pretty lame. So in summary, this game is still pretty good, but it does have its cons, which makes me put this in number 9. In my number 8, I have Assassin's Creed 3. Colonial America is a criminally underutilized setting in video games. And while AC3 doesn't take quite full advantage of its time period, this should have been the game to cement the series' legacy as one of the best action-adventure franchises ever. But instead, it was a gigantic missed opportunity, but there's still a lot to like in this game. The move to the colonies means that there's a lot more wilderness to explore than in previous games. So you're now jumping between trees instead of just buildings, and the new protagonist Connor honors his Native American heritage with tomahawks and bows and arrows, which helps the gameplay feel significantly different from its predecessor. This was also the game that literally introduced naval battles to the series, a welcome idea that later entries would significantly improve upon. Really, the biggest issue here is also its selling point: early America. To stay somewhat historically accurate, the cities of the era just weren't as large and fun to explore as locals in the earlier games. The American Revolutionary setting was almost completely ruined by the poor draw distance, which made everything look foggy, and the shorter buildings and forests weren't particularly fun to climb. The game's pacing was also a mess, starting with hours of preamble and tutorial missions that could have been condensed into only a few hours, and it was literally filled with bugs that could break missions. Now, was this game a bold step for the series? Oh yeah, definitely, but it was one that needed more refinement. In my number 7, I have Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Released just 1 year after the landmark of Assassin's Creed 2, it's no surprise that Brotherhood feels more like an expansion than a full-blown sequel. But what's here is done quite well. There are some very welcoming minor changes to the combat that encourages players to be more aggressive when it comes to their playstyle. But the biggest addition in this game is the Brotherhood itself, your very own League of Assassins to call in for help or even send on missions. And while it's offline now, Brotherhood was the first game in the series to introduce online multiplayer in its unique cat and mouse gameplay. Now look, it was never Call of Duty in terms of popularity. I'm not trying to start a war against fucking Call of Duty fanboys, but it was well made and attracted a small but dedicated community over the years. Bringing this mode back in a future AC game would certainly be welcomed. Ezio is back and he's still a badass and still awesome. You get to slowly build Rome back up, which is rad. You get to take some of Da Vinci's inventions out for missions outside of the freaking city, which is rad. Cesare Borgia is a great charismatic villain that you fight in a burning castle, which is rad. You get to recruit new assassins, which is rad. And Desmond fucking stabs Veronica Mars, Princess Anna, Lucy, to death, which is sad, but pretty rad too. Now look, did Lucy deserve to die in the end? Kind of, cause like all of the double agent plot was written at the same time when Kristen Bell was fired due to like some pay dispute. The attempts to explain the Templar affiliation went too off to justify her death. Did she deserve it? Yes, due to the Revelations DLC, where explains that Lucy killed or sort of killed Kashmirik and showed no remorse. And no, because it doesn't make sense with her development along Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood. Honestly, they could have just recasted her. And in my number 6, I feel like you guys are going to be a bit surprised, but hear me out. So in my number 6, I have Assassin's Creed Mirage. In some ways, I would say that Assassin's Creed Mirage is surprisingly close to that hypothetical aforementioned Assassin's Creed remake that I was talking about a while ago. Though not really a dead ringer for the original installment in this franchise, it does harken back to the core of Assassin's Creed experience by focusing on the parkour movements, stealthy actions, performing minor side tasks that don't get in the way of the main experience of the game. By boiling down the formula down to its core components with a little bit of a twist, Mirage basically rediscovers what made Assassin's Creed so much fun in the first place. Unfortunately though, the game just doesn't have that much to offer as the very best entries in this franchise. Its shorter runtime, which is like 15 to 25 hours or so, may actually be a draw for some fans. But Mirage doesn't really try to forge its own new path, nor does it even try to attempt to match the scope of games like Assassin's Creed Black Flag. As such, it can sometimes feel like a playable proof of concept that is certainly well done enough to warrant a follow-up to this game. Now we're about to enter my top 5 Assassin's Creed games of all time. Now disclaimer, this is just my personal list. I'm not trying to speak gospel and saying that these are the definitive top 5 Assassin's Creed games of all time. It's my personal list, so these are the games that I personally enjoy the most. So take it with a grain of salt. So in my number 5, I have Assassin's Creed Unity. The one criticism of Unity that still apps is that it's maybe a little too similar to Assassin's Creed 2, right down to the protagonist Arno. But then again, is that really a bad thing? Like, yes, the similarities are there, but it looks better, plays more smoothly, and even adds online co-op to the mix. Now look, if bad reviews have turned you off of Unity in 2014, I repeat myself, 2014, I promise you guys it is well worth checking out right now. This is the ugly stepchild of AC games, which really sucks because this game was pretty rad. Yes, it was buggy as hell on release. Yes, the multiplayer missions they pushed so hard in advertising sucked ass. Yes, Arno was no Ezio and not even an Edward Kenway, but god damn it guys, Revolutionary Paris is maybe the best setting ever in an Assassin's Creed game. I stand by that. It is fucking packed with people in a way that I've never seen in a game until Cyberpunk 2047, after they fixed the glitches, of course. There's people walking, there's people drinking, there's people singing, there's people dancing, there's people looking in the goddamn telescopes, there's people looting churches and using broken furniture to build barricades and setting fire to shit in the streets while waving flags. It just fucking rules. For the first time, you have a skill tree that lets you customize your gameplay style. For the first time, you have a different main weapon of choice. For the first time, you have a customizable outfits. For the first time, you can jump off a roof and sail through an open window and go running through a building and then go flying out another window. For the first and sadly only time, you had a descent button that lets you run and jump down buildings like a boss. For the first time, you had an interesting side quest. Even the story was cool and fitting to the period. Templars backstabbing Templars, assassins killing assassins, a good cop, bad cop, buddy cop / love story between an assassin and a Templar, just fucking shit up. A fight against your mentor on in a church in a storm, animus anomalies that take you to different eras of French history, the Marquis de Sade being scummy but also hilarious, a young Napoleon being a suave total douchebag, witnessing the execution of Louis XVI in a sea of thousands of people, a chase scene in a hot air balloon, and Elise shoots Raspberry straight in the goddamn mouth.
Then right.
Oh boy, overall this one was pretty cool and it's way better than it gets credit for. So please guys, please give Unity a shot. I promise you, you're gonna have one hell of a time with this game. Now in my number 4, I have Assassin's Creed Origins. If you told me that after AC Syndicate that the next AC game would be basically Witcher 3 but in Egypt, I would have personally said that it kinda sounds ridiculous, but it's actually not ridiculous because it's actually freaking awesome. Like, Egypt is probably my favorite setting after Paris because it's vast, it's varied, it's mysterious, and it's beautiful. The new combat system was a massive improvement. The crypt exploration was a great return to the earlier games. And the historical characters, especially Cleopatra and Caesar, are great. And the outfits in this game look awesome as well. Aya is one of the most compelling characters in the series, and Bayek is a force of nature. Like literally, the opening scene is literally him screaming and stabbing a dude straight in the eye. He's such an angry, sad, and broken character, but at the same time, he's also still funny and charismatic. Watching him find peace is probably the best single game character arc in the series. And the remembered conversations with his lost son when he finds constellation points are truly touching. Even the new modern day arc is really good, I would say, and in my opinion, Layla is a great follow-up to Desmond Miles, and in my opinion, way better than the, prototypical the modern day arc is you, a video game player that, Black Flag, Unity, and Syndicate tried to do. The only complaints I have with this game is that the boss fights aren't very interesting. Considering all the chances they took on reinventing the series, it's a miracle that this is probably the only fault I could find with this game. In my number 3, I have Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Now, yes, I understand that Odyssey has the same problem as Origins and Valhalla in that it almost feels too overwhelming and big at times. However, I would say unlike those games, Odyssey's missions are more varied and the Greek setting is just so much fun to explore that becomes more than the sum of its parts to become one of the best games in the series. While Assassin's Creed games are known for their open-ended designs, Odyssey truly offers multiple ways to approach almost every situation. And then there's the awesome naval combat, and it's probably among the very best in the franchise if you ask me. You can literally spend hours upon hours just sailing around and customizing your ship. And while the story hasn't always been the strongest points of literally any of these games, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, in my opinion, absolutely nails it here with a lengthy epic about both saving the world and a family that can play out very differently depending on the choices you make. Then there's another cool endgame twist regardless of whichever ways those choices play out. If Assassin's Creed Odyssey has a fault, it's that it doesn't always feel like an Assassin's Creed title, yet it's a better game for the risk it takes with both of its narrative and gameplay. Now look, I'm not trying to change your mind about Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Like, if you hate it from the get-go, you're probably never gonna love this game. But if you're an open-minded person, give this game a shot. That's all I ask from you guys. In my number 2, I have Assassin's Creed 2. Remember when I said earlier that Assassin's Creed 1 inspired a whole series? Well, I'm kinda wrong, because AC1 inspired a sequel, and Assassin's Creed 2 was so badass it gave us a whole series. This game just blew my mind when it came out, and it's everything good from Assassin's Creed 1 times 10 plus all kinds of new shit. Desmond can run and jump and stab dudes now instead of just being a dude in a room. Ezio makes Altair look like a personality-less block of wood. He's funny, he's got mad Renaissance style, and he just drips fucking charisma, guys. Then you got his friends in this game, and instead of a bunch of gruff historical figures, you got a freaking young Da Vinci inventing ridiculous shit for you. You also get Machiavelli being sneaky. You even get like a big Italian uncle that literally says,
"It's a me, Mario!"
Then you get the gameplay. Now you can pull guys over the ledges to kill them. You can stab someone from within a hay pile you're hiding in. You can throw smoke bombs. You can toss coins on the ground to create a distraction/obstacle. You can toss bodies off roofs or into hay piles or into canals or whatever the fuck you want to do with them. You can pay groups of mercenaries or prostitutes to help you blend in or distract or attack guards. You can shoot people with a wrist-mounted gun. You can glide through air on wings built by your crazy buddy Leonardo. You can disarm dudes and use their own weapons to kill them. This feature really needs to come back ASAP because it rules so hard. You can hidden blade stab 2 guys at once. You can find secret platforming dungeons inside of a famous landmarks you need to navigate to find collectibles. And in the final battle, you can use the Apple of freaking Eden, exactly like the final boss in the first game, to beat the boss in this game. There has never been a leap forward in a series like this. I mean, we still have Assassin's Creed games decades later because this game was just so freaking cool. And I understand in majority of the fanbase have Assassin's Creed 2 as literally the best Assassin's Creed game of all time. But that's not where I'm gonna go because I have my own personal favorite Assassin's Creed game. And this is not to disrespect Assassin's Creed 2 because, as I said a while ago, I'm an Ezio fanboy. I glaze for him. But this one Assassin's Creed game, this one AC game has literally just stole my heart. And now we get to the tippy top of the mountain of my favorite Assassin's Creed game of all time. Disclaimer, this is just my personal list, so please, I beg you, take it with a freaking grain of salt. Because I'm assuming people watching this video right now are grown adults, so please don't let creators like myself or others dictate on what AC games you want to play. And if you want to play Assassin's Creed games like Syndicate or Valhalla, by all means, go ahead. I'm not trying to stop you. Because at the end of the day, the best Assassin's Creed game is literally subjective. So in my last and my number one best Assassin's Creed game of all time, and again, this is just my opinion, is Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. After Assassin's Creed 3 conclusively ended the story of Desmond Miles, it wasn't entirely clear where the series would go next. As strange as it may sound, injecting a pirate theme and Caribbean setting into the established Assassin's Creed formula was exactly the bold new direction the series really needed. Assassin's Creed Black Flag, in my opinion, is a pirate game first and an Assassin's Creed game second, but the classic stealth action gameplay is still here and it's still pretty great, and it's actually perfectly refined from the last few titles. But that's not honestly the real draw of this game. This game puts you in command of your very own upgradable pirate ship and sets you in the middle of the Caribbean during the golden age of piracy to loot, plunder, and sing sea shanties with your crew. It's literally everything you could ever want from a pirate game. It is rather baffling that more developers haven't tried to copy this formula over the last decade. I mean, technically Ubisoft did with, Skulls and Bones, but we know how that shit went down. Black Flag is the least Assassin's Creedy of all Assassin's Creed games, because this is basically a pirate simulator and it's just plain fun. Because I'm not gonna lie, I must have boarded hundreds of random boats on the high seas, and nothing beats firing down onto enemy deck and swinging over on a rope and just wrecking shit with your two swords. And the actual assassin plot is convoluted, you're not even an actual assassin until the game is almost over. And the present day arc is just completely forgettable if you ask me. I mean, you're just playing this faceless character, you're the main character type of protagonist. It's just not that interesting if you ask me. But it doesn't really matter to me because I'm just too busy spearfishing sharks and finding buried treasure like an actual pirate. And the main story of this game isn't even about assassins are good and Templars are bad. It's about a desperate group of people trying to build a new world based on freedom and watching it slowly collapse around them due to their own excesses and flaws. It's about a guy who left his family to make a new life for them, but gets so lost in his new life that he realizes one day that he forgot why he was even there to begin with. Watching Edward Kenway grow from an immoral opportunist to a wiser man carrying loss and pain and surprisingly hope for the future makes him one of the best protagonists of the series. His ending is bittersweet because he lost so many of his friends, and some by his own doing by playing both Templars and Assassins, to meeting his daughter with whom he can try to redeem himself from the final guilt that he caused, which is neglecting his own wife. I mean, the fact that Edward told his wife that he would be back and then made a conscious decision to not return for years is the sad part. Sure, he got caught up in a lot of things, but it's not as if he couldn't, leave. His constant pursuit of reputation and riches is what led him to where he is, which is being alone without a single person left standing beside him. Him choosing not to go home, then finding out Caroline had died was the part that really cuts deep in this entire tragedy. If he had went home with the money that he made beforehand, she may have lived. And that's the sad part. This game just has a rich story, long but not draining quest lines, a fun ship mechanics, challenging seas, fun mechanics, an immersive open world, a semi-decent modern day storyline, and just an all-around fun ass game. It's like how Assassin's Creed Valhalla was supposed to be like a character being a pirate, yet holding traditional assassin values at heart while being taught the virtues of being a proper assassin with honor. Long story short, it's a fun game whether you're a longtime fan or not. I would recommend this game for any beginners because it's not total Assassins, but it's also not another Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It fits the Assassin's Creed formula just perfectly.
Edward! Your constant friendship has been my most treasured find on these seas. Well above gold and silver and rum, I prize the courage you have inspired in me this year. Thank you, sir. A fair good morrow to you.